Alright, so we're back right into another Dragon Ball Super card game video. This one features another deck profile. Yeah, it's been a little scarce as far as videos go, but like I said, I'm going to be doing these Monday through Friday, with Friday having live streaming and Friday Night Fights. Of course, you can always support and be part of the memberships by joining at the bottom right, and of course the Discord. And before I start, this is actually going to be a double release. If you check in the description below on our website, you're actually going to see Sandy's list for the red-green Broly, and there should be a couple of articles on there right now, including his. Please go check that out, because this one is with the Familial Surge Goku, and his is going to be Familial Surge Broly. See what we did there, huh? All right, let's just get into the deck. So if you didn't take a look at the leader already, or if you haven't watched my previous videos, he's a swing, draw 2, and then drop 1 into the drop area, similar to like Paragus, and actually, yeah, just similar to Paragus, because I don't think anything else really does that. Everything else you kind of need to pitch first before you draw 2 cards, so seeing the 2 cards first and then pitching is actually incredibly good. His Awakened Surge is that you choose 1 red card and 1 yellow card in your hand and place it under the card. This card, the leader that is, you draw 3, and then you choose up to 1 of your energy to switch to active mode. And of course the backside is a 5 or less. You get to either negate all their skills on their battle cards, or you get 10k for the duration of the turn and critical. So the thing about this is that, one, yeah, it's obviously quite a lot to give 10k in criticals and now a 25k critical threat, but this is on either turn. So if they're going for a super wide board, and it means your death, well, yeah, your loss or death, you can actually do this on their turn. So becoming a 25k leader for one card, I guess, on their turn is incredibly good. I don't think that's wrong. I'm pretty sure that's right, and it makes sense because this is both activate main and as well as battle. So since it is both activate main and is battle, and it doesn't have during your turn, I would imagine that it does work. What this deck does, it basically wants to take advantage of not only having the options for being a little aggressive, but also the main swing, draw 2, and then dump 1, and as well as the Awakened Surge, because it is still an Awakened effect, and we do take advantage of Heartfelt. So when we look at the main sort of core of the deck, we have all the Familial Bond stuff at the top, which Familiar Bonds at 4, 4-star ball at 4, and then of course the Familiar Bonds target of super combo Goten is still, I mean, in a pinch you can do that, and as well as the Digging Deep, which is going to be the main target and kind of the main focus of the deck in the first place, and then Fearless Pan, in which not only Digging Deep, the Heartfelt, which already has triple strike, but still, Beerus, the Topo, and as well as the 5-drop Draftbox Vegeta that's in this deck will all gain double strike, especially late into the turn. If you're playing stuff on their turn and then using Familiar Bonds into Fearless Pan, you can then go ahead and do that and build a wide board. Not only that, is that if you're in a pinch and you haven't seen a 4-star ball, or something happens in your deck and you don't see them, or it gets milled out, I don't know what case it is, you can still give everybody 5k, which could include a Topo or could include a Vegeta, and bring them to 25k in order to get to that Heartfelt target. Which brings me to the yellow-red good stuff, in which the Heartfelt is the targets for that. It's going to be Digging Deep, or the Digging Deep is going to be the best target for that. The reason why we do that, or the reason why I say that, is because of the 4-star ball. The 4-star ball says activate battle, choose up to 1 of your battle cards or leader cards, and it gains 5k for the duration of the battle. And of course 5k more if it's a skillless. But the thing about it is that you actually don't have to choose the one that's in battle. So you can choose any battle card within your actual field, which this has been around for a good amount of time since the 4-star ball, and as well as like the 2-drop Trunks, which it gets, you know, you gain 5k and you draw a card. All those things still work, and it still works in this aspect as well. So when you're swinging twice with Digging Deep, you go to 20. After you swing, you either swing with leader or another battle card, which I'll explain a little bit in a little bit, and then you give the Digging Deep 5k, you awaken, and then go ahead and play Heartfelt right after, because now it is a 25k. Of course, on the flip side, you do play 3 red yellow Beerus. You can probably play 4 as well, because it is still such a good card. I've mentioned it a few times with the newer cards needing to swing and as well as needing to get that advantage. Beerus kind of stops that for its second effect, but the main effect that people use it for is a 30k or less KO, which is really good versus a lot of different things like baby. I won't say this has a really good baby matchup. Only played it a couple times, so I would say I would definitely test it more often than not. Really, any deck. I think this is a really well-rounded deck for against any deck that is. I would definitely say Beerus helps with that to regulate a lot of different things like that. Anyway, 3 of the Whis, of course, for non-energy exhausted type of things going on there, and then the new stuff, which includes an automatic resistance, which is basically a battering for red, in which you have to pitch a yellow card, I do believe, and then you negate a counter attack. So remember that this is not a counter. If you want a counter or something for any counter, not just counter attack, which again, stuff like Topo, stuff like this card that we're going to talk about in a second, Mafuba, Dimension Magic, those are all counter attacks. But if it's counter battle card attack, which now that I think about it, Mafuba is not one of those. It is a counter battle attack. If it is just counter attack, that's the only thing that gets around. So you have to be very careful of that. If they Mafuba your Heartfelt Plea, you can't do anything about it because Automatic Resistance only does counter attack, which includes usually the 1-drop negates. Anyway, it's incredibly good to end games. You only have to worry about being KO'd or being stopped in the arrival step, which generally, if they're countering, they're not going to have an option to arrival, or they usually don't. Anyway, that's one of the new things. The other 2 new things is the Broly and the Bardock. Both 1-drops are incredibly good. I can't speak more enough to these things. It sucks that they're promos. That's a whole different video, but honestly, I'm very happy to see at least some, some use to the promos, but also some balance to it. The 1-drop Broly says if your leader card is red, you play this card, and if they have 2 open energy, you get to look at their hand, and then they have to drop, or you can choose 1 20k or less battle card from their hand and drop into the drop area. This really punishes decks that open energy or have open energy all the time, like counterplay decks, and it really helps to look at their hand before you do a heartfelt play, or really any play in general. So if you want to kind of have a vibe check, this is the card to do it. Bardock is really good because it is a 1-drop negate. It is a rival fodder for Beerus. It's the only arrival card that you have in the deck, which is why I'm not too concerned about not having too much combable yellow in the deck. But the other effect is that if your leader card, well, basically if this is in your battle area, which you will play it after you negate it, so you play it for 1, you negate their attack, and then you can use the Awakened Surge skill and pay the 1-drop on the field as the cost. So you basically use it and not neg that card in order to Awaken Surge, which is kind of the downside for Awaken Surge, which is supposed to be the downside, and this kind of fixes that. So you only play 1 red card from your hand, the Bardock on the field, and then you put it right underneath the leader card to awaken. This creates some cool stuff, let's just put it that way. One of the things I'm going to mention a little bit later is actually swinging with Bardock, using the 4-star ball on Digging Deep or Topo or whoever else in order to boost that effect. Or even if you have a Beerus and you swung with it already, you can go ahead and swing with the Bardock, awaken, pay the Bardock to put underneath the leader, and then go ahead and put a red card underneath the leader. Use the Heartfelt Auto in order to remove the Beerus or whatever else that you have on the field. And now you have 3 cards in your hand. You didn't neg 1 because this is on the field and it swung, and now you have Offering and a Triple Striker, which overall this is just really, really good. I know that there's some arguments to Awaken Surge versus Heartfelt, but I do believe that it does work. It is still Awaken skill, just like how Counter is still a counter skill, even though Mafuba is counter battle card attack, just like how we said before. It is literally the same thing. I don't have any doubt about that. If there's a ruling that comes out, so be it. All right, moving on to the tech options and other cards that you can kind of consider. We do have Topo, which really regulates a lot of different decks, especially aggro decks that are trying to go more aggro than you, which is very, very possible. We do have the 5-drop Vegeta, because we don't really have spot removal other than Beerus. You really have to just swing into things, and Vegeta's sort of there if they go too wide. Champa is there to kind of get around any kind of boss monster that you don't really need to, that basically if they're stalling you out and they're playing a lot of counter plays or they're playing a lot of negates, Champa is there to kind of keep you in the game, give you 15k body, and as well as draw and stop their plays before it gets too bad, basically, and then you can kind of take game for whatever else that you need. Same thing goes with the Frieza Army Reborn. If it gets to that point, a lot of the time that you will actually have that 5 red if you do not charge a yellow. Just charge the multicolors, charge the red afterwards, and then you should be Gucci. Other than that, you sort of have to sort of play around that 5 cost red cost, basically. But overall, like that secret is incredibly good. The only thing that really gets around it is Crusher Balls, and as well as Champa, along with like Cold Bloodlust, I guess, and Frost. Either way, if you're at that point in the game, you should at least understand that that is a possibility. Then we have the 1 of Champa. Basically, giving anything double strike is really good. It's just you kind of need it at this point in the game. Plus, your leader is a 25k critical. Now there's a 35k critical that they can't really respond to as far as a rival goes, so I think that's a really good thing to consider. Then we have the grade 8 Gokus. They're very expensive, I know, right now. Same thing with the 5-drop Vegeta and as well as the Topo. The thing about it is that you don't really have any kind of way to draw on the backside, so grade 8 Goku actually helps a lot with that, and I almost think that this needs to be at 3, but I would definitely test it more at 2, and then put more in there if you really want to. And of course, the same thing to cycle more throughout the deck. If you don't see the targets that you need or the cards that you need, like Heartfelt or Digging Deep, then Bardock is going to help you with that, along with Goku. And of course, Bardock is really good because he can pitch one of your familial targets without actually interacting with your opponent. And of course, the extra other than the ones that I've talked about already, is going to be Active Image Technique. This, along with again Heartfelt. Like if you have a Vegeta, like Super Saiyan Vegeta on board, and you take a life for After Image after paying 3, you boost it up, if it's in rest mode or whatever, and then you awaken, and then you untap 1, and then you go ahead and draw 3, and then you go ahead and play Heartfelt, because now you boost one of your battle cards to 40 plus, and obviously you have a Heartfelt target there. And now the cards to consider, because you are red, the Nile, Beerus Ball, and Azaro you got are all really good extra cards. Depending on the matchup, I don't think they belong in the main. Maybe Beerus Ball, and that's really kind of stretching it. They're really good sideboard cards, if anything. It just really depends on what matchup you're going against. Khalifa is there because it is another comboable yellow card that's a 0 cost 5k, and it is another target to put underneath the leader. And of course you can put any of the multicolors, but still, which Heartfelt is a really good one, because if you have multiple, you can just use that as a Surge Awakening cost. But her being able to take 1 life, which the more life the better sometimes, and other times when you're not able to swing with Digging Deep, another way to awaken is really good. And then the other effect, in order to tap one of their energy, is really good, because if you play the 1-drop Broly, the 1-drop Broly, take a look at their hand, you tap down their energy, and if you know for sure they don't have enough energy to respond, or they only have 1 negate, that kind of takes away a lot of different plays in order for you to take game a little bit faster. And of course, the new promo, or this is a new expansion promo, the Nimbus of Voyager. If your leader card is red, you place this in the drop area after it swings, and you get to KO something that is 25k or less. Another kind of spot removal, but you have to sort of have them in rest modes, which Champa can really help with that, or even Crusher Ball or the 1-drop counterplay. And because you are a yellow leader, you can't use Time Magic. With all the yellow Broly around, is a really good sideboard card, even main card to use instead of After Image. But I think After Image in this build is a lot better. Moving on to the Mulligan and the turn, since I got a lot of good feedback on this, I would like to keep it, and if you guys would like to have it stay in it, I will make sure that I will do it. And as well as anybody on the Stay Serial team will do it when they do a video, because I forgot to tell Rob, and that's going to be up, and I'm dumb, but oh well. But if you do like this, definitely leave a comment. As far as the Mulligan, it's pretty obvious. You need the Familiar Bonds in your hand, Digging Deep. The Bardock is kind of like a, it's like, I think it's nice to have, so that way you have some defense, and as well as the option to awaken without eating the cost too hard. And then of course, Heartfelt would be really good as a multicolor, or just to have one in your hand. One drop Broly, depending on the matchup, and depending if you want to just look at their hand or not. Like if you know they're not going to be tapping, or yeah, if they're not going to be tapping out a lot, the one drop Broly is going to be really good. And then we have the any multicolor. So like you don't really have to charge a multicolor, just like how the turn 1 says. But I do believe that it is pretty good to have. So that way you don't have to worry about charging a yellow for Frieza SCR. So turn 1, of course, you don't have to charge a multi, just like I said, but you do want to draw 2 pitch Digging Deep or Ape Goku, so that way turn 2 you can use the Ape Goku or use Familiar Bonds depending on your hand. Turn 2 you get to swing again, pitch a Fearless or another drop target like the Goku, Digging Deep, anything that you really don't need. Depending on your hand, you can use Familiar Bonds as far as to get Digging Deep, take 1 life, take 2 life depending on the matchup. If you're going against aggro, go and take 1 life and just restand. If you're going against not too much aggro, taking 2 cards is not going to be that big of a deal. So that way you can have more cards in your hand and see more that you need. And just like I said here, you can be more defensive and swing, or keep open for 2 Topo, or 2 open for Topo or Champa, and everything else that I just said. And then on turn 3, you swing Digging Deep again. You go to 5 life is basically where you want to be, so that way your backside is active. Or if you want to let your super combos to be live, that would be really good as well. And if you play the Bardock on their turn, just like I said before, you want to go ahead and swing with the Bardock first, after you swing at the Digging Deeps, and then go ahead and do the Awakening play in order to get into Heartfelt Plea. And then turn 4, if you can, because by this time you're going to see a lot of cards in your hand, after swinging with Leader and then doing everything else, thinning out your deck with Familiar Bonds, you should be able to play 2 Familiar Bonds, 1 for Digging Deep, 1 for Pan, and then if Heartfelt is still alive, you can go ahead and just hold Almighty in order to negate whatever attack they or counter they have, and then just go for game. If it goes long, then you can go ahead and just use, I spelled Champa wrong, use the Leader effect with 25k, bring him down 2 life, and then use the Frieza SCR if possible, that type of thing. Here's the deck itself. Overall, it's a really good, really fun deck. Like I said before, you have access to a lot of red and yellow good stuff. A lot of good Heartfelt shenanigans, a lot of combos there. The Surge is incredibly good. The only downside is, just like I have in the cons, there's no draw on the unawakened side. You have a lot of different ways to aggro the opponent down, with some options to be defensive. And then having minus over KO is really quite good as well, because you just have that option. You basically get around the things that can't be KO'd, and it can combo as well. So like if you want to go ahead and after image into Beerus to KO like a secret rare, you can do that. Cons is that if you don't see Digging Deep, it sucks, and Familiar Bonds is no different as far as that goes, but the deck draws quite a lot. I don't think that's really an issue. Again, no draw on Awaken. Counterplays kind of hurt against Digging Deep, so you have to be kind of smart about that and play around it, which is why the 1-drop Broly is really good in that. So that way you can kind of get around whatever they have and force their hand when you need to. And then you really kind of go tall instead of going wide, which can be sort of an issue if they play Mafuba or if they know how to play around it. So I would highly recommend to test it out and know your matchup as soon as possible. Overall, that is the deck. I'm very happy with it. I've been having a lot of fun with it in the last couple of weeks. I'm excited to see other builds that people can have or have made, I guess. And please check out Sandy's article with the red-green Broly as well, with all of the Familiar Bonds good stuff. Please consider becoming a sponsor or member of YouTube. Join the Discord. Subscribe if you're new. There's so much stuff going on. I love it. And I'll see you in the next one. Later.